In 2005, Sega made the mistake of releasing the game Shadow the Hedgehog to the masses. Generally panned by both critics and fans, the game is notable for trying to introduce more, mature themes in a series that's supposed to be about cartoon animals using the power of friendship to save the day. This game is infamous for a few reasons. First off, the entire game revolves around Shadow using guns. The guns are a core part of this game's identity. The very first thing you hear when booting up this game is a gun sound effect. Guns have always been part of the Sonic universe. I mean, past games had entire modes that were sort of like third-person shooters, but Shadow the Hedgehog takes this concept to such an extreme that it actually becomes funny. Shadow, a cartoon character made for babies, regularly uses SMGs and assault rifles against both aliens, actual people, and sometimes even his friends. All the menus make gun sounds, and even the fucking Wikipedia for this game shows him shooting a dude. The game is also infamous for its plot, which, to be kind, is a confused mess. It takes itself way too seriously, and it retcons events from a lot of previous games, most notably Sonic Adventure 2. This whole game almost feels like Sonic Adventure 2 fanfiction, as it tries to increase the scope of Shadow's character in ways that are just batshit insane. So, despite all of this, I've decided that I want to 100% this game. Now, why would any sane person decide this is something that they want to do? Well, man, I grew up with this game, and I'm sure it had a negative impact on my brain's development. I remember being in a Toys R Us one day with my auntie. We took a look into the video game section, and that's when I saw it. Shadow standing in front of a big explosion with a big old gun in his hand. My auntie who was with me was definitely the cool auntie because she bought it for little 9-year-old me despite it being rated E10+, whoa! I played way too much of this stupid ass game growing up, and I think that's the only reason I can tolerate it. I actually still like it a lot, both for how absurdly stupid it is, and also probably because I've just been brainwashed into thinking it's fun. I don't know, I enjoy this game the same way I imagine people enjoy shit like the Star Wars prequels or Neil Breen movies. It's dumb, it's bad, it stops making sense the moment you think about it for like more than 3 seconds. But I don't care, because I like it. I'll be using this challenge to share my thoughts and opinions on different parts of the game as I go along. When I say that I'll be 100%ing this game, I mean that I'll be getting an A rank for each mission. This is the condition for the level having a big star over it in select mode, so that's what I'm going to be going with. The game keeps track of how many A ranks you've gotten out of a total of 71. Get them all and every level will be starred, which is what I'm going to be going for. I actually came really close to doing this in my save file growing up, and I only had 1 A rank missing from doing this. You can take it a step further than just getting all of the A ranks, but for reasons I'll explain later, that's almost impossible. So, with that being covered, it's time to dedicate the time of my ever-fading precious youth to a bad game about a cartoon edgelord that's almost 20 years old at this point, because fuck you! Chapter 1. Introductions and Basics. We start our journey on the outskirts of Westopolis, a place that we're gonna be very familiar with soon. Shadow's suffering from amnesia after he fucking died at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, and he has questions about his past and who he really is. This was introduced in Sonic Heroes after the writers realized that he was too popular to kill off, and they just refused to let him stay dead. Then, the apocalypse happens, Satan shows up, and they just start chatting it up like there's nothing weird going on here. He asks Shadow to bring him all the emeralds and then just fucks off with some explosions. And then Shadow just kind of shrugs and says, "Yeah, sure, sounds good to me," and sets off into the city. From here, we're introduced to the level screen, with Westopolis being the very first one. As we progress, we run into Sonic, who asks Shadow to help him out by killing all of the...
Let's show the black creatures that we mean business.
Yeah, no, that's really what they decided to go with. And we're gonna be hearing a lot of it throughout this game. As we go through the level, we find a Chaos Emerald just chilling in the middle of the street, and then we run into Black Doom, who's Shadow's buddy from earlier. He asks Shadow to kill all the gun soldiers in the city. Almost every level has 2 different factions that are fighting each other. These are Gun, the Invading Black Arms, and the Eggman Empire. In every level, the player has a choice between a hero mission and a dark mission. The whole game revolves around the player's choice of being good or evil, and the player has this option in almost every stage. Most levels also feature a neutral path where Shadow can just ignore everything and get the gold ring at the end. In certain levels, getting the gold ring can count as either the hero or the dark mission, depending on the level's context. When you beat a level, you're graded on a scale of E to A for completing a mission, which means every level, if you want to get all A ranks, has to be beaten at least 2 or 3 times. But you're gonna find yourself playing some levels a bit more than others. I get the goal ring, which nets me a B. Ah, well, whatever. Not bad, considering it's my first time playing this game in years. Following this, we're shown a cutscene of the Commander of Gun reacting to the opening cutscene of the game. The limpest soldier ever tells him that they've spotted a black hedgehog, and oh boy, does this guy not like that. He tells him to deploy the troops because killing Shadow is this guy's top priority over the actual apocalypse, apparently. Back in Westopolis, Doom gets really pissy with Shadow for not obeying him, and then he teleports him away to Time Outland. Shadow wakes up to find that Time Outland is actually the next stage, Glyphic Canyon. We find out through playing this level that these ruins are actually an alien temple. In this mission, we have the option to either help out the aliens by touching these jewels that activate the temples, or we can help Knuckles out by killing all the aliens in the stage again. Yeah, that's something this game asks you to do a lot. I decided on doing the dark mission this time just because it sounded easier. I touch all the jewels, which activates the temple, and I get another B. Shit! Next, we get a cutscene where the President of the United Federation is being briefed about the ongoing alien invasion. And this cutscene is pretty funny for just a few different reasons. First, we find out that the CIA has had their mainframe compromised. Not some made-up bullshit security agency, but the actual motherfucking CIA. The president then declares that the UF
will never surrender to terrorists.
Because it's 2005. He then monologues about freedom while he longingly looks at the frame picture of Sonic and Shadow on his desk. Anyways, we get back to Shadow as he arrives out of a computer for some reason. We catch Dr. Eggman just cruising on by, and we're now in Cryptic Castle. If you don't think that makes any sense, well, don't worry, I'm gonna get to that in a little bit. By doing the dark mission of the last level, I've changed Shadow's path in story mode. Unlocking every level in the game requires you to complete both hero and dark missions to access all the different stages. This time, I've decided to do the hero mission, which is to help out Amy. She's looking for Cream, who's lost in the castle. She also gets mad if you kill the Eggman robots.
Just leave the robots alone!
She must also be suffering from amnesia, because this guy fucking threatened to blow her head off like 2 years ago. My dumbass accidentally skips over Cream, and I actually managed to find her Chow Cheese, who's like at the end of the stage first. Mercifully, this game allows you to warp between all the checkpoints that you get, because the devs must have realized that, this game would be an actual nightmare if there wasn't an easy way to backtrack. I find Cream, and I'm appropriately rewarded with an E rank. Following this, we're confronted with the Egg Breaker, which is the first boss fight that we've encountered so far. The boss fights in this game range from being tedious and annoying to just being laughably easy. This one falls on their latter side, and I take it down no problem. And would you look at that, it's our first A. As he goes down, he says that we haven't seen the last of him, which is painfully true. In fact, we're gonna be seeing a lot of this stupid robot throughout this game. Eggman somehow appears unscathed in his headquarters and orders his fleet to attack the aliens. You're probably noticing this by now, but these cutscenes, they don't seem to be lining up properly. So now we're back in the alien temple, except now it's floating in the sky. Sky Troops is actually one of the better levels in this game in my opinion, and it has a banger of a track. Here I'm gonna be going with the Dark Mission, where you have to blow up all of Eggman's airships using these alien turrets. This level's pretty memorable because it's one of the only levels in the game with an actual bright blue sky, straying away from the dark and gritty palette that the rest of the game uses. Following this, we get a cutscene of the gun commander evacuating the president from the White House into their super cool Star Wars ship. Shadow follows hot in pursuit, and we start the next level, Air Fleet. In this level, Shadow has the option of either helping Tails kill all the aliens on board this ship, or assassinating the President of the United States! I honestly have no fucking idea how they greenlit this. I mean, this game's pretty batshit crazy, but I don't think anything takes the cake over your objective being to fucking kill the president. This level is also funny because Tails has a line where he says,
"You have to kill them all or the president is done for."
For now, I'm just gonna help out my genocidal pal Tails. So, I go all the way through the level, killing all the aliens I see, and I get to the end, but I'm still missing 2 aliens. And you know what it's time for now? Peak Shadow the Hedgehog gameplay. teleporting to the start of the level and then combing the whole goddamn thing looking for the 1 or 2 enemies you missed. So after 10 minutes, I say fuck this and restart the level. It turns out that the 2 that I missed appear right at the beginning and are super easy to miss if you do the ring dash. Coupled with Tails' little intro thing here, and yeah, no wonder I missed these. And also, you can't backtrack to this area. So, in other words, if you miss these 2 very missable enemies, you're just fucking screwed and you can't do anything about it except restart. So, I go through the level for a 3rd time now, but you know what, this level is actually not too bad to go through, so I don't really mind. You get to mow through a lot of these big guys, and it's actually pretty fun. Or at least I think it is. After doing all of this, trying to kill the president, mowing through the monsters on his ship, Shadow concludes that he's a robot and decides he wants to go kill Dr. Eggman. This makes no fucking sense. So just what the hell's going on here? Plot lines are added and dropped constantly because certain cutscenes always play before certain levels. So sure, the player can choose their own path, but the game can't properly account for all the different story combinations. The decision to let the player choose their own story was pretty ambitious, especially for this time, but in practice, it's just a mess that always results in a storyline that just doesn't make much sense. So now we arrive in actually one of my favorite levels in this game, which is Lava Shelter. The level design here is actually pretty sick. You're inside of what looks like an industrial site which is powered by a volcano. You can either do Omega's mission and head straight for the goal ring, or you can do Dr. Eggman's, where you activate his lava defense units. Activating these actually changes the stage by raising the lava level in certain parts. This makes certain areas a lot harder because suddenly you can just fall and die. It also seals off part of the stage, and the 2 missions go in pretty different directions. This is one of the only examples where it feels like the choice between doing one mission or the other actually has an impact on the gameplay. There's only a few levels that use this concept, and they're all among the better ones in my opinion. It shows that this idea had some real potential to it, and I really wish that more stages did stuff like this. So I decided to do Omega's mission and just get the goal ring at the end, and I get the A rank for it. And then I'm confronted by what might be the stupidest robot Eggman's ever made. It's a slot machine that makes him attack himself, and then sometimes just gives you Chaos Blast. This guy's got an IQ of 300, by the way. Shadow finally has all 7 Chaos Emeralds, and he's decided that he's the ultimate Shadow android, and he's gonna lead an army of them.
What?
Then he tells Eggman that he's
Going straight to hell.
and karate chops him to death, and then the credits roll. When I say that the story's a mess, I actually think I'm underselling just how bad and nonsensical it can be. The game encourages you to choose between different missions, but these storylines stop making sense the moment you stray from an intended string of them. There's just no way for the game to account for all the different paths you can take. And this is why I mentioned earlier that truly 100%ing this game is almost impossible. If you wanted to do that, you would have to go through every single possible combination of levels for story mode. Do you want to know how many there are? 326! They even named them all! For context, every playthrough of story mode takes about 45 minutes to an hour, if you know what you're doing at least. And I don't think Shadow the Hedgehog for the GameCube is a good use of at least 330 hours. Unless you're me and you're making a stupid fucking video about it. Whatever, call me a fraud because the title of this video is fake or whatever. And here we see another huge problem that this game has. The only way to unlock levels is to first play through them in story mode. But because you can only play a specific path at one time, you have to play through the story mode a minimum of 5 times to unlock all of the stages. Even worse, every final stage has a different final boss depending on if you choose the hero or the dark mission. So to unlock all the levels and boss fights in this game, you have to play through the story mode 10 fucking times, minimum. So you might think this is just me nitpicking because I'm doing a specific challenge run of this game, but this is actually also required to unlock the final story. It is required to play through this game at least 10 times for just beating it normally. And you know where it starts? Every single time? Good old Westopolis, baby! Woo! So, here we are back in Westopolis, with the same opening cutscene as last time. And the same opening cutscene it will be every time. Because every story mode starts here! This time, I opt to do the dark mission. You actually have to run past the goal ring to complete both the hero and dark missions, and 9-year-old me took way too long to figure this out. I get the last gun soldier and it's another B. Ah, whatever, it's with stopless. I'll get like 8 more cracks at it at least. We get a cutscene of Shadow being a real freaking epic badass before Black Doom makes the mistake of exposing him to the internet. Digital Circuit is actually a pretty cool level, and it's one of the only in the game with a color palette that doesn't look like this. Doom's mission is for Shadow to destroy the internet's mainframe. But unfortunately, Shadow gets distracted by bat titties and decides that he wants to get the gold ring instead. And I get an A rank for it. Next is Prison Island, which is now a radioactive wasteland after being blown up, and has the grossest color palette I've seen in anything in a video game. The dark mission is just to destroy all the gun robots, which is boring. So, let's see what the hero mission has in store for us.
Hey, Shadow. I gotta ask you something.
I managed to get all the robots in one go, but I only get a C rank. Shadow's then walking through a forest, wondering about who he is, when Black Doom summons him into a vision from the space colony Ark 50 years ago. We see Shadow and Maria running away from the gun soldiers who were sent to kill everyone on board the Ark to cover up Project Shadow. You can tell this Black Doom fella is just a real trustworthy fella. He's really looking out for Shadow. Would this face lie to you or try to manipulate you? And here we have the Doom. This is, without a doubt, one of the worst stages in this game. In fact, it might be one of the worst stages in any video game ever. The whole thing about this level is that it's a giant maze. It's confusing because a lot of the areas are literally copy-pasted. And a lot of the time, it's not clear just where you're supposed to go. They give you a map to help navigate it, but it's not really the most useful. And despite all this, I actually kinda like this level. Call it Stockholm Syndrome or whatever, but it kinda reminds me of a Metroid game with all the connecting sections. This stage is so far removed from any traditional Sonic level design that it could only ever exist in this game. For first-time players, this level is an absolute nightmare, but because I spent way too much time playing the stage growing up, I actually know how to navigate it pretty well. Maria's mission is for Shadow to heal all of the scientists who have been wounded by the gun soldiers, while Doom's mission is for Shadow to take revenge on all these soldiers. There's an item you unlock later that makes Maria's mission way easier, so for now, I'm just gonna have to find all 60 gun soldiers. Having to find 60 enemies in this giant maze isn't easy, and it takes me almost 14 minutes to do this. And keep in mind, I at least have an idea of where to go, and it still took me that long. I would not be shocked if someone took close to an hour to complete this mission if it was their first time playing. That's how bad it is. I get a D. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come back to this one later. We get a boss fight against Heavy Dog, which is a gun tank that shoots out these bombs and energy waves. This is actually one of the better boss fights in this game, and it serves as a decent palate cleanser after suffering through the Doom. He can actually be pretty tricky, but he drops missile launchers if you homing attack him enough, which helps out a lot. Hey, look at that, another A! Shadow and Black Doom make their way to the Ark for the next level, the Ark. Most of this mission just has you riding on this Black Hawk thing that shoots lock-on lasers. This thing actually isn't very fun to control and feels really janky and irresponsive. For the Dark mission, you're supposed to destroy these 4 defense generators, but I just decided to go and get the gold ring. After this, we get another boss fight, this time against Blue Falcon. It's essentially the same fight as Heavy Dog, but just with some added verticality. The only real interesting thing about this fight is that if you look up the Shadow the Hedgehog soundtrack on Spotify, the track for this has a typo in it.
Minor spelling mistake. I win.
Then we have to listen to Black Doom give a big "I'm a bad guy" speech.
You humans are so pathetic.
And then we get sent to another god-awful stage in Black Comet. This mission is both really long and actually pretty challenging. You have to use these saucers to glide over these seas of acid that insta-kill you if you fall in. But once again, I'm just gonna go for the gold ring. This level's one saving grace is that the music here is so good. I managed to make it the whole level without dying, and I thought I did a pretty decent job. And then the game gave me a fucking E. It was only after reviewing the footage that I realized that if you do the hero of the dark missions, the game subtracts the opposite score from your total, which that's pretty handy to keep in mind from now on. And here we fight the final boss of this run, and it's the fucking slot machine robot again. Are you serious? This dude comes completely out of nowhere and just once again shows how the story makes no sense. Another A rank, another story completed. Shadow decides that he's a big boy now, and that being told what to do is for weenies. Karate chop of death, the end. I decide to end this session by doing a quick few missions in select mode. I get the A rank for the neutral mission in Air Fleet. Getting an A for most neutral missions basically just requires you to play through the stage like a normal Sonic game. I then head back to the Ark to do the Dark mission. It takes me 2 attempts because of the stupid launch ring that screws you over at the end, but I managed to get it done. I end my first session with 10 out of 71 A ranks. Not bad, all things considered. I start up a new story mode run, and this time I decided to help out our good old pal Sonic. I managed to kill all the aliens no problem, getting the A rank. To which Shadow has this to say.
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
The next level is Lethal Highway, which is probably the closest thing this game has to a normal Sonic level. It features these wide highway sections that you can run down and get a pretty good sense of speed. The hero mission is to help Sonic destroy this alien tank ship thing because, I don't know, who cares, the game says so, while the dark mission is just to get to the end. A few stages have these missions where you have to take out a big target that moves through the level, and you can actually fail these pretty easily. But I don't, and I managed to destroy it and get my second A in a row. You see Shadow riding in a motorcycle for a lot of the promotional material for this game, but Lethal Highway is actually the only level where you can ride one. I think they probably intended for these to be a bigger part of the game, or maybe they just wanted to make him look like a cool badass who smokes cigarettes cause he don't give two fricks. Staryu gets real upset that these 2 rapscallions are causing a ruckus, and he summons this abomination called Black Bull. This fight is more annoying than anything because you have to wait for these flying enemies to spawn in before you can attack him. You're supposed to be able to chain homing attacks to do damage, but just sometimes it doesn't work, which wastes time. I get a C, whatever, moving on. Next we see Shadow running towards Circus Park, where he casually drops this gem of a line.
Where's that damn 4th Chaos Emerald?
Alright, I know, this line's been memed to shit already, but I still think it's funny. Then we watch Tails' plane crash. He unfortunately survives and wants us to collect 400 rings. This level gives you a ton of them though, so it's easy to end up accidentally doing this mission. This is a cool stage, it's got a more upbeat tone to it than a lot of the others. It's one of the only ones without the black arms, and you can really feel the lack of their oppressive presence. It's even got a tightrope, look at that! For now, I just get the gold ring at the end and lock up another A. Following this, we see the Chaotix crew trying to hack Dr. Eggman's computer, but they just can't seem to figure it out with them being fucking idiots and all. Shadow walks in and Giga Chad karate chops the keyboard, which unlocks the portal to the digital realm! He jumps in and SPO follows him. Mad Matrix is Digital Circuit's lamer and more tedious older brother, and these 2 stages share a lot of the same assets. SPO wants us to access all 4 of the big data towers, but I have something much less fun in mind. The dark mission of this level is to trigger all of these bombs in order to cripple Eggman's data network. The level's laid out with the 4 towers separated by a big network of circuits in the middle that Shadow can ride along. All 30 of these bombs are located in the circuit network. This is one of, if not, the worst mission in the game. You can't control the camera while you're in these circuits, and it's hard to tell where you're going. The network itself is too big for the game to fully render all at once, meaning you can't actually see where all the bombs are. So this just turns into a big guessing game of aimlessly riding down these paths, because there's no way to know where all the bombs are without using a guide. And when you're riding these circuits, you have no control over Shadow's movement, except going left or right when there's an intersection. They absolutely must have known that this would be a pain in the ass, because despite this taking me over 20 minutes, the game still gave me an A. Eggman gets real pissed off that he can't stay up till 3 AM anymore, and we get another boss fight against the Egg Breaker. Of all 3 fights against this robot, this is the hardest version. You have to use these bazookas. Normally your gun auto-aims at enemies, but you have to manually aim weapons like this. SPO also scolds you for killing the robots because we can't let Eggman know we're here. I think it might be a bit late for that, buddy. Eggman also has this one attack that he really likes to use, so get ready to hear this a lot.
You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier.
Between SPO being a dumbass and Eggman saying the same line over and over again, you think they maybe could have taken the 5 minutes to record more than 2 lines of dialogue? Everything about this fight is ridiculous. Shadow then comes face to face with N64 versions of himself, which sends him into an existential crisis. In the last game, Shadow's story ended with Team Dark finding a lab filled with Shadow clones, so you know what, it kinda makes sense that he might think he's won. Iron Jungle's another one of those levels where you can destroy a big target that moves through the level. I tried to blow up Eggman's balloon, but I actually ended up failing the mission, so I have to settle for the gold ring instead. I hope you didn't miss the Egg Breaker, because he's back for more, and now it's time to fight him again. And this time, he's not playing around.
Oh, you asked for it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Time to crush you. What the? Next time we meet, you won't be so lucky.
Nah, just kidding. It's actually the easiest fight in the history of video games. Me and my brother actually used to take turns doing this fight just to see who could beat him the fastest. So it's back to Lava Shelter again, where this time I'm doing the Dark Mission. The narrative framing around this level is actually pretty cool. It might seem like you're helping out Eggman by activating all of his defenses, but the game reframes this as Shadow trapping the Doctor so no one else can get to him. I got a B this time, so I'm gonna have to come back to this. I fight the stupid slot machine robot again and end this run with another A. Shadow finds the chicken Big Mac, or whatever, who cares, the end. I quickly go into select mode and go back to Iron Jungle. I go and get the A for the Dark Mission before starting up another story mode. I start a new run and kick things off by getting the A for the neutral mission in Westopolis. In Glyphic Canyon, I decide to help Knuckles by killing all the aliens, and I get another A. This leads me back to Circus Park, where I begrudgingly help Tails by getting all 400 rings. 3 levels, 3 A's. Things are looking good. Next we find ourselves in Death Ruins, which is a really fun level. The music here goes fucking hard. I decide to do the Dark Mission and just get the gold ring at the end, because completing the Hero Mission will send me to one of the worst stages in the game. While trying to speed through the level, I get hit by this drone which causes me to fall and die, so I'll have to settle for a B rank this time. Black Doom and Shadow have a conversation where Tentacles over here mentions that a ritual is going to happen tomorrow, before he summons Black Bull and fucks off. This fight is a lot less tedious than the other one, because you can just farm these aliens to rack up guns and ammo. It's also easy to rack up enough points to get Chaos Control, which makes the fight pretty easy. I actually haven't mentioned this mechanic yet, so I'll do a bit of an explanation. The gist of it is you got these 2 bars on the top of your screen. Doing good stuff fills up the blue one, doing bad stuff fills up the red one. Pretty simple. Filling the red bar gives you Chaos Blast, while filling the blue bar gives you Chaos Control, which lets you fly through the level. I don't know why they didn't make it so it just freezes time, considering this is what it does in boss fights. When either gauge is full, Shadow will be sent into a glowing state, which decreases with time. During this state, Shadow is invincible and none of his guns use any ammo. Anyways, with that out of the way, our next level is Space Gadget. Shadow joins Sonic aboard a ship that's headed into space for the Ark. He has a post-traumatic flashback after he realizes that this is where he died at the end of Sonic Adventure 2.
Died? Time to rock and roll!
Yeah, this scene has sort of become a meme just because of the tonal whiplash of Sonic being a dickhead. He kind of feels out of place in this game as a whole. In a game that's beating you over the head with these darker, mature themes, he still acts like a totally tubular, snarky shithead. This level's neat because the hero mission is a race against Sonic to get the Emerald at the end. It makes a lot of sense for Shadow to regain his memory of what happened in Sonic Adventure 2 by doing something that calls back to that game. This whole stage is basically a big callback, using similar level design and even changing gravity. In practice, this race against Sonic just means you have to get the gold ring before a 5-minute timer runs out. However, the neutral mission is also to get the gold ring, which means if you want to do the neutral mission and you get to the gold ring before the 5 minutes are up, you just have to sit there and wait till the timer runs out. After this, we get a cutscene where the Gun Commander confronts Shadow face to face. This guy's only official name is Gun Commander, by the way, and that's too much of a mouthful to say every time this asshole shows up. So, I'm just gonna call you Derek. Derek has a personal grudge against Shadow because he was on the Ark when Gun showed up to kill everyone. He witnessed when Shadow was being created by Professor Gerald. And you know, it kinda makes sense that he's terrified considering Satan is there in the room. Derek says that Maria was like a sister to him, and was apparently the only family he ever knew. That's not how that works! You know what, this guy's whole backstory makes no sense. He was there when Gun attacked the Ark, but somehow little boy Derek managed to escape while everyone else was killed. Then he decided to join the organization that killed everyone he knew, and eventually became their leader. I don't know, man, like a lot of things in this game, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. You know what I think? I think that Derek is bullshitting here. I'm not even making this up to be funny. I legit think he made this story up just to fuck with Shadow and guilt trip him. Whatever, Derek tries to kill Shadow, but he's just too freaking cool and teleports behind him, kiddo. Shadow then has a somber moment where he accepts responsibility for the destruction he's caused. I've been pretty dismissive of this game's story so far, but there are some good moments like these from time to time. Shadow says that he needs some time to recover the truth about his past, and Derek lets him go for now. The arc starts to collapse in on itself and fall apart, which leads to the next stage, Cosmic Fall. I think that this level's a really cool piece of metaphorical storytelling. I know that sounds stupid considering that this is Shadow the Hedgehog for the GameCube, but okay, hear me out for a sec. At this point, Shadow's confused and conflicted about his past and the reason for his creation. He doesn't know what to believe anymore. This is paired perfectly with the arc falling apart. The arc is the most significant place in his life. It represents all of his past, the good and the bad. And now it's in free fall. It's out of control and falling apart, just like his perception of himself. A lot of this level features platform, with the camera positioned high above Shadow aiming down. You can see the earth below, and you can see how much of the arc is falling apart. Cosmic Fall isn't perfect though. As with a lot of things about this game, there's a catch. There's a lot of standing around and waiting for platforms. In fact, the first minute of the stage is basically just standing and waiting. And as I progress through the level, I run into the last person who should ever be in a situation like this. Vector the fucking crocodile. To say that he's extremely out of place in this level is a pretty big understatement. The directing for his voice acting is so laughably bad, and he just comes off as a gigantic moron.
Find the computer room!
Has been absolutely memed to death just because of how unintentionally hilarious it is. All of the tension and narrative theming or whatever I just went on about is completely thrown out the window once Vector shows up. I know you can just switch to Black Doom to get rid of him, but when you meet a character for the first time, they will always have this little 3-second intro animation, and you can't turn this off or disable it. Cause this is the only level with Vector in it. You will have to listen to and see his stupid fucking face every single time. He's such a goofy and stupid character, I'd go as far as saying he ruins this level. He'd be a much better fit for an earlier stage with a way lighter tone like, I don't know, Circus Park. I cannot emphasize enough how awful of a decision it was to have him here. Actually playing through this stage, I end up kind of struggling and dying a few times. Just, this level's pretty hard, man. To make this worse, my controller dies. I try to do some troubleshooting while Black Doom gets mad at me for just standing around.
Why are you just standing there?
I'm fucking working on it, man. Leave me alone. So after about 10 minutes of trying to configure my definitely legit Nintendo MacBook, I end up having to reset it. Anyways, with my controller finally working again, I managed to beat the level and find the computer room! Only to get a B. Black Doom shows up to personally punish Shadow for being a naughty little boy, saying that he brought him into this world, he could just as easily take him out. We finally get our first last boss that isn't the stupid slot machine. Black Doom's boss fight isn't too bad. It mostly just involves dodging his attacks and then waiting for him to be vulnerable. He goes down and I get another B. Shadow then has a depressive monologue where he states that he's a research experiment gone wrong, and that he should have never been created. Of course, you still have Vector with you during all this, and he's just very Vector about it.
Hey, don't go there! Yet!
Jeez, thanks for the support. What a real shoulder to cry on. And that's it, the end. Man, this game struggles so much with tone just because it's trying to tackle these dark, mature themes while also featuring these brightly colored cartoon animal characters. The game's best moments come when it fully leans into just one of these directions, and its worst are by far when it's trying to strike a balance between the two. I decided to end the session by going into select mode and doing the dark mission for Circus Park. Eggman wants us to destroy all the gun robots, and there isn't many of them, so I managed to get the A pretty decently, and would you look at that? That's our first stage with a big star over it. The next two runs I'm going to be doing are the full dark and the full hero paths. I think that these two paths had a bit of extra care put into them because they knew that these would be pretty common routes for players to take. These storylines and string of levels feel a lot more connected. They offer some of the best storytelling that this game has to offer. The bar is at the bottom of the ocean at this point, but these stories are much more coherent than if you're mixing and matching different paths like I've been doing earlier. So this is Chapter 2, Light and Dark. I'm gonna start here with the true dark path, where Shadow decides he's had enough of being good. We start in Westopolis and agree to help Black Doom wipe out all the gun soldiers. Getting the A rank here means I can cross Westopolis off for the 100% run. Then we go back to Digital Circuit. Shadow's seen what you fucking sick freaks have done to him on the internet and rightfully decides that that's enough of it. I get the A rank, which gives me the star for Digital Circuit. The next cutscene is the one where Shadow comes out of the computer, which actually makes sense now. The dark mission for Cryptic Castle is pretty similar to Lava Shelter. You have to help Eggman light these big jack-o'-lanterns, which unlocks different paths. One funny thing about this level is that destroying the robots gives you dark points, so the game rewards you for killing Eggman's robots if you're doing his mission. Cryptic Castle is just kind of okay. There's a lot of riding on these hawk things, which isn't very fun. You'll also be needing to carry these torches for a lot of the level in order to light these smaller lanterns. The melee weapons in this game are pretty shit and generally not ever worth using. I finished the stage with a B because this stupid piece of shit hawk got stuck on a wall. Boss fights in story mode are always tied to the same level, so you'll often find yourself fighting characters you might have just been helping out. Like here, I have to fight the Egg Breaker even though I was literally just helping Dr. Eggman. The next scene we get is of Mr. President being informed that Central City is being invaded. He seems to be pretty surprised by this. He can't believe it. I guess they just forgot to tell him that these guys literally fall out of the sky. If you've reached Central City, the game knows that you're pretty invested in the dark path by now. Shadow literally stands rank and file with the aliens, while Black Doom gaslights him about how much he should hate humanity. The aliens still attack you in the level though, because them being friendly would have required the devs to tweak their AI. Consider Central City to be a punishment from these devs for being a big baddie, because this level fucking sucks. One of the biggest problems about Westopolis is that you have to play it over and over and over again. The game asks you if you've had enough and laughs in your face, because this level uses the same assets and aesthetic that you're probably already growing tired of. While Westopolis is at least straightforward and easy to breeze through, Central City is agonizingly confusing. It's another level like the Doom, meaning it's a giant maze and you find yourself running around in circles. To make this worse, this is the only stage in the game that doesn't have a goal ring. You can't just breeze through this level, the game forces you to pick one of the two missions, and both of these missions are just really fucking bad. The premise is that the aliens have rigged a bunch of bombs to blow up the city, which also means this level has a timer. Fuck me, it's like they set out to make this level just the worst. The dark mission's the more bearable one. You have to find 5 of these big bombs and activate them by shooting them. That wouldn't be too bad if navigating this level wasn't a massive pain in the ass. There's this one part where progressing requires you to blow up this one random wall. I used to get stuck on this level a lot as a kid because I just had no idea where to go. I didn't know you were supposed to do this. The hero mission's even worse. You have to help out Knuckles by disarming all of these small bombs. The kicker is that the only way you can do this is by sucking them up using this weird alien vacuum gun. This only works as a weapon against smaller enemies. And unfortunately, this level is absolutely crawling with big enemies like the gun robots and giant aliens. So you have to scour this giant confusing level with the gross aesthetic, under a time limit, and while being largely defenseless. This level is some of the absolute worst that this game has to offer. Solid F-tier garbage. Luckily for me, I already know where the big bombs are, and I managed to get the A for the dark mission because once again, and say it with me now kids, I played too much of this game growing up. Following this, we're back to the Ark. I forgot to explain this earlier, but the story context here is that Shadow is helping the aliens take control of the Ark's ultimate weapon, the Eclipse Cannon. I've already gotten the A for the dark mission, but I double up for good measure. Shadow defeats Blue Falcon again and gains control of the cannon. Black Doom then fires the cannon and nukes, Kansas City, I guess. The blast hits the White House and we get the scene that they ripped off from Independence Day. The president is evacuated into Gun's underground fortress, but we find out the aliens, along with Shadow, have infiltrated their perimeter, and they're closing in fast. This stage is now set for the best level in the game. Gun Fortress is just an absolute banger. In order to even get here, you have to have already either nuked Central City or assassinated the president. You are all the way in on being evil. Shadow's beyond redemption at this point. The game leaves it up in the air about whether the Shadow in this game is the same one who died at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, or if he's some kind of clone or android. But here, it doesn't matter. Because at this point, the original Shadow really is dead, and this one has taken his place. There's no inner turmoil inside of him like in the other endings. He knows exactly what he wants, and he knows what he has to do to get it. The music here is incredible. Instead of this big boastful last evil hurrah, the music is quiet, it's somber. It portrays an atmosphere of uneasiness and hopelessness. This is it. This is the last line of defense. This is humanity's last stand. But there's a small flicker of hope that hasn't gone out yet. The gameplay of Gun Fortress matches perfectly with this tone. Gun is desperately throwing everything they've got at you to try to stop Shadow, but fittingly, this only makes him stronger. These giant walker robots are common throughout the level. They drop the best gun in the game while also giving Shadow a ton of dark points. If you use it properly, you will spend over half of this level with Shadow being in his Chaos Blast state. This means that you are effectively invincible during this level with infinite ammo for the game's best gun. You feel like an unstoppable force of nature. You can just hold down the B button and blaze through the whole level and fucking kill everything without a thought. This is just thematically perfect. Shadow's so far gone at this point that he's just mindlessly mowing his way through humanity's last line of defense. He doesn't care anymore. All he wants is revenge for that day aboard the Ark. This is one of the very few examples in this game of narrative and gameplay coming together perfectly. The hero mission for this level is actually pretty good too. Gun Fortress thankfully isn't ruined like Cosmic Fall with some shithead crocodile man tempting you to kick him in the dick as hard as he can. Instead, it features the most fitting character for a level like this, Rouge. Not only does it make sense for her to be here because she's like a government spy or whatever, but she's also maybe the only person in the entire world who has a chance of changing Shadow's mind. She's like the closest thing he has to a true friend, and you can tell she cares about him a lot. If there's anyone who could spark a last-second change of heart, it's probably her. The hero mission of this level takes on a drastically different tone. Instead of mercilessly mowing through everything, you're now blazing past, and you're sneaking in. You literally take the high road, taking out aliens who are sneaking behind enemy lines. It almost feels like a spy movie, especially this one part where you're jumping up these bars. And that's pretty fitting with a level that features Rouge. The music is of course fitting for this too, because Jun Sonoy is an actual musical genius and I want to kiss him on the lips, goddammit. Another great thing about this level is that it doesn't reuse its theme from another stage. This game had a pretty short development time, which means Sonic Team had to reuse a lot of assets to pad out this list of levels. But Gun Fortress doesn't look or feel like any other level in the game, which just absolutely rocks. This stage really exemplifies a lot of this game's best qualities. I blast through the Dark Mission and get the easiest A in the whole game. I really wish I could say that such an awesome level could have been followed up by a really cool boss fight, but instead our reward is the most tedious and drawn out fight in the game. Sonic and Diablon. Sonic is pretty justifiably pissed off at Shadow on account of him having gone off the fucking deep end. He's paired up with Diablon, which is an experimental gun robot that's being piloted by Derek. This fight is really not fun at all. Sonic is extremely passive and only serves as a nuisance who homing attacks you every once in a while. He just kinda stands around for a lot of the fight, not putting much effort in considering the fate of the world's on the line here, bud. Diablon is protected by an energy shield, which makes him immune to damage. The only way to get him to lower his shield is to bait him into attacking. To do this, you have to attack Sonic to get up into the air, and then homing attack Diablon as he shoots his laser. What makes this fight take so long is that Diablon has an absurd amount of health, which Shadow's homing attack just doesn't take much out of. This fight takes forever because you slowly have to whittle down his health while performing the same actions over and over again. You eventually knock him out of the air, but the premise is still the same. Bait him, homing attack, repeat. The game does give you some guns for this fight, but only the pistol, which is the first gun you get and the worst in the game. It does shit damage and you only get 10 shots with it. Chaos Blast helps to take out a chunk of his health, but this fight is usually a long and drawn out affair no matter what. This fight takes me over 5 minutes and the game gives me a D. This is honestly one of the things I was dreading the most about having to get all of the A ranks. Shadow stands over defeated Sonic and boasts about how he's the biggest, evilest guy in the whole world, and how he's going to use the emeralds to
Destroy this damn planet.
Then he does a big evil laugh and the story ends. I think the true dark story is pretty ridiculous, man. Shadow sides with the big bad aliens and destroys the world! Sounds like something a 9-year-old would make up on the playground. It's honestly really funny and entertaining to see what Sega thought was the most evil Shadow could be. And you know what, I'm glad this exists. It's really entertaining to see Shadow do a big villain laugh. Just probably not in the way that they intended for it to be. It takes itself so seriously, and it's impossible just not to take the piss out of it. I mean, your bad guy buddy is named Black Doom and looks like this. I'm surprised they didn't have a big flashing neon sign following around that says, "I eat babies." This game can be so batshit crazy, it's just hard not to laugh at how ridiculous it all is. And you know what the cherry on top of all of this is? For completing the true dark path, your reward is the fucking samurai sword. Because of course it is. Shadow the Hedgehog. He truly can be your angle or your devil. But now it's time for Shadow to be your angle. The true hero story starts in the same place they all do, Westopolis. I kill all the aliens and then destroy the spaceship in Lethal Highway again. In the rematch against Black Bull, I try to cheese the fight by killing these guys and getting their guns early. But it's just not enough, and once again I end up getting the C for this fight. This sends me to Circus Park, where I once again help Tails line his grubby pockets, and then this sends me back to Death Ruins. We get a cutscene of Derek being given a report that the aliens have been pushed out of Westopolis, and have been isolated to the nearby forest. It's nice that the game actually accounts for you being on the hero path, and makes it so that the aliens are pretty noticeably losing. The hero mission is once again to kill all the aliens in the level, like half of the stages in this game. 50 might look like a lot, but a lot of them are these little larva things, so it's not too bad. Death Ruins is a pretty neat level. It's a solid mix of platforming and gun gameplay. There's some cool set pieces like running up this abandoned canal, and then also triangle jumping between this gap. I finished the hero mission with an A. After beating Black Bull again, Shadow warps to Iron Jungle, but Sonic pulls up in his brand new whip. He explains that the aliens have fled back into space, and that they're headed to the Ark, and tells Shadow to hop on board. Once on board, Shadow comes face to face with the Chaos Emerald that's powering their ship. Then he decides to do this.
This is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me.
Oof! Ow! I've been cut wide open from the edge! Just fucking... really? Well done, writers of Shadow the Hedgehog. This is also pretty out of character for him at this point, considering he's already helped out on Tails multiple times. This is supposed to be the pure good path. Why is he stealing from two of his closest allies? Not to mention, it's pretty fucking stupid to just take the source of power from the spaceship you're inside of, but whatever. Shadow steals the emerald, and just doesn't he look so proud of himself? This might be the happiest he looks at any point of his whole game. Unfortunately, this doesn't last very long because it sets off the ship's alarm. This triggers a flashback to Shadow's days on the Ark. We get Maria informing Shadow that Professor Gerald's research experiments have got out of control, and that the Ark is in danger. He agrees to do whatever it takes to protect the Ark, which leads us to the next stage, Lost Impact. From a story perspective, Lost Impact is a pretty neat level. We get a glimpse into Shadow's past. We're told a lot about Shadow's life on the Ark and his relationship with Maria. But in this level, we get to experience the part of Shadow's life that doesn't get touched on too much, which are the happy days of his life before everything went wrong. Aside from Westopolis, this is the only level in the game where the gun soldiers don't attack you on sight. This is also the only stage without a dark mission, and I really like this decision. Narratively, it doesn't make sense for Shadow to want to do anything evil at this point of his life. It also makes it actively harmful to the player to attack any of the gun soldiers, because all this is going to do is lower your score for Maria's mission. The music in this level is beautiful. It's this really somber piano-driven track that really captures that bittersweet feeling of reminiscing about the good old days. This level is Shadow living that fantasy that we all have. If we could just go back and be in those memories one more time. Shadow's taking it all in again, trying to make it last for as long as possible. Because when this wears off and he returns to the current day, all of this will once again fade into memory. With all that said, this level sucks! The stage uses the same assets of the Doom, which means you get the same copy-pasted level design that's confusing and gets you running in circles. It's more linear than the Doom, so it's not as bad, but it's so stupid that they thought to use this idea not once, but twice. Both of these stages feature Maria as the hero character, means she's stuck being in the two worst levels in the game. Her mission is for you to kill 35 of these enemies called Artificial Chaos. They don't really pose that much of a threat, but for some reason some of them can just fucking snipe you with their arms from halfway across the stage. You get these sections where you're controlling a turret that's on rails. The turret controls like ass, and there's no challenge to these segments. Except if you take damage, it knocks you out of the turret and your rings just fall through the ground for whatever reason. Thankfully, you can hold down the B button to speed them up, but it's still just really uninteresting. Earlier, I waxed poetic about Shadow desperately trying to cling on to his memory or whatever. What that actually means is that this level really overstays its welcome. I'd say that this is the longest stage in the game. The hero mission is absolutely fucking dreadful, and it's a really close toss-up between this and the Mad Matrix Dark mission for worst in the game. A big part of getting the A rank in most levels comes down to the time bonus they give you, but this level is so long that it's just so hard to get that. This mission was the only one that stopped me from 100%ing this game as a kid. That A rank is my white whale, and part of the reason I even set off on doing this in the first place. I knew I wasn't gonna get that A rank the first time I played this stage, so I ended up just messing around and dying from being a dumbass. It takes me 16 goddamn minutes to beat this level, and the game gives me a giant middle finger. I'm really dreading having to come back to this one later. Shadow's memory fast forwards to his final moments with Maria. She lies wounded on the ground before Shadow is ejected into space in the escape pod. But we've seen this scene before, and that's not how this happened. Whatever, the flashback serves its purpose. Shadow now remembers his past with Maria and the promise he made to protect the Earth. Shadow and Sonic spot the Black Comet, which gives him another PTSD flashback. Except this time, it's about the time he watched a YouTube video about someone ranking the most attractive female Sonic characters. Shadow concludes that the only place a source of such evil could exist is on board that comet, and the two head off to put a stop to it. Final Hunt is another pretty good level. It's like Black Comet, except it's actually fun. Sonic's mission is just for you to get the gold rank, so it makes sense for you to try to kill as many aliens as you can to get Chaos Control. The only shitty thing about this level is that there's these parts where you have to use the alien sucky suck gun to pull out these pieces of the wall. I usually try to time Chaos Control to skip over these parts because they just really interrupt the flow. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just annoying. The music here is this really funky, upbeat, and energetic track, which is pretty rare for this game. I mean, it makes sense considering that this is the only level in the game where Shadow has his memory from Sonic Adventure 2 restored. This track makes the level feel like a confident last hurrah, and wouldn't sound too out of place in a normal Sonic game. Also, these doors make a really funny noise when they open. I managed to make it through no problem and grab the A. Shadow and Sonic confront Black Doom, and he admits that he's the one who made that cursed video. Shadow calls him cringe, and Sonic also gets in on the bullying. This really hurts Doom's feelings, and it causes them to have a fight. This is the easiest version of this fight. You have access to this laser gun that absolutely rips his health, and it makes it pretty easy. I take him down, and that's the A rank. Shadow then proclaims that Doom and his army are finished, and then nothing really happens. It just kind of ends after he says that, which is, I guess, kind of anticlimactic. I like the hero story a lot. It's a pretty fun string of levels.
Except for Lost Impact.
I think this makes a lot of sense for Shadow's character. Even if he has amnesia, he was still in Sonic Heroes and he helped to save the world in that game. Well, now I have every level unlocked in select mode, which means I can really start grinding away for all those A ranks. Looks like I won't be needing to do story mode anymore. Ah, shit, I still have to do 4 goddamn playthroughs. Fuck me. Chapter 3. It ain't over yet. I'm gonna start by clearing out some missions in select mode that I most likely won't be returning to in the story mode. First, I head back to Lava Shelter and grab the A for the Dark mission. Then I go for the neutral mission in Iron Jungle. You can save some time by skipping over these annoying enemy sections with a well-timed homing attack to grab these pulleys. Other than that, I don't really have anything else noteworthy to say about the stage. Other than that, targeting Eggman robots with a lock-on missile launcher just kinda feels wrong. I return to Black Comet, this time knowing that it's not a good idea to attack the gun robots. I managed to get the A rank by finishing the stage in 6.5 minutes, which is pretty quick for this stage. Then I go back to Death Ruins and get the A for the Dark mission. I save some time by falling down in this open area, and then I jump on top of this cage, skipping having to kill these aliens. Then I go to Space Gadget for the Dark mission, and fucking strap in for this one. This requires you to completely ignore Sonic's race for the Emerald and instead destroy the Ark's defenses. And yes, these are the exact same ones from the Ark. Making assets is hard, guys. We've got to copy-paste the same stage 3 times. This mission takes you down a totally different route from the other one and makes you travel deep within the Ark's power plant. The gimmick for these areas is that there's these things that change the gravity. This can actually be really disorienting, and it kind of reminds me of like a way worse version of Mario Galaxy.
But one never knows if that will be the case until he lands. A man worries about becoming accustomed to marching.
Okay, not nearly that bad, but still not great. I managed to take out 4 of the 6 defense units, but then Black Doom fucking lies to me and says that I missed one and to turn back.
You have gone too far. Turn around and destroy the defense unit.
This confused me and I tried to turn back around, but this door wouldn't open. So, because Black Doom is a lying sack of shit, I restart the level. This time I get distracted by this key because monkey brains see shiny, and end up taking the wrong path that locks me out of the dark mission. So, I restart the level for a second time and end up getting sniped by these missile launchers. So now in my 4th attempt, I end up making pretty good progress with only 1 defense unit being left. And then I screw it up by mistiming this jump and turning Shadow into space dust again. I suck it up and managed to finish the stage, and I have no idea how the game gave me a B because I died twice and didn't really know what I was doing. Now on my 5th attempt at this mission, I managed to go the right way, avoid the missiles. Black Doom keeps his dirty lying mouth shut, and I time this jump properly. And I finally get that stupid A rank. And now, because I love Vector so much, it's time to A rank that computer room. This run was going pretty well until this one part. You're supposed to dash along this trail of rings for a shortcut, except it doesn't work and I fall and die. I don't know if it's just me, but the ring dash has never worked properly for me in any Sonic game. Whatever, I give Cosmic Fall another go and I finally get that A. And I decide to end the session, bringing my wonderful time with Vector to a close. With 36 out of 71 A ranks, I'm now halfway to that fabled goal of 100%ing this garbage-ass game. Time to start up my 7th playthrough of Story Mode. From here, my focus when playing through Story Mode is to rake in those A ranks. I want to have the most I can before entering the final story, and I've tried to plan these routes to be efficient. A lot of this next run is going to be doing neutral missions, which makes it easier on me because I just need to get the gold rings. By the way, you tired of Wastopolis yet? I swear to God, one day the KGB are going to broadcast the music from this level and it's going to activate me as a sleeper agent. I get to Glyphic Canyon and decide to do the neutral mission. It's better to do good actions when you're trying to complete these, because it'll get you Chaos Control, making it easier to get the goal faster. After bagging another A, I'm back in Prison Island where I once again just zoom through the level as fast as I can. This leads me to Sky Troops, and honestly, Chaos Control doesn't really come too much in handy here. I tried to time it so that I would skip over the section where you have to ride the Hawk, but the game just straight up didn't let me. You will ride our shitty aliens, no being clever here. I make good time and I pick up the A. One thing I found out while making this video is that this game is a lot less cutthroat about giving out A ranks than Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Heroes. Those games really set a high bar for what they expected of the player. You had to play through those levels not only without dying, but also performing certain actions to make sure your score was high enough. In this game, most of your score just comes from the time bonus, which means above all, doing the level quickly is what matters the most. On one side, you don't have to reset the level every time you die, but this also leads to the game sometimes rewarding you for very subpar play. Some of these A's don't feel the most well-deserved, but I'm not complaining because this is much less tedious than I thought it would be. So I'm back in Iron Jungle trying to blow up Eggman's balloon again. This is probably the hardest of these types of missions. Even after going like full try-hard fucking lean forward in the chair mode, I still only managed to destroy it at the last possible second. The game gives me a B for this, but I don't mind. Maybe a bit of a spoiler warning, but there's a way to cheese this mission pretty easily after I finish the final story. This sends Shadow back to Cosmic Fall.
Damn it. What does it all mean? Nothing makes sense.
Wow, some rare self-awareness from this game. I'm going for the dark mission here, which means I can finally tell Vector to go fuck himself. I managed to make it through this pretty tricky optional platforming section, and all I get for it is a lousy key. The dark mission of Cosmic Fall basically cuts the level's length in about half. The final boss of this run is our good old friend I know you've missed so much, the Slot Machine Robot. Eggman shows up and acts like a nepo baby, wanting to prevent Shadow from ruining his grandfather's legacy. I think he did a pretty good job of that already when he tried to blow up the Earth. After easily defeating him, Shadow declares himself as the Ark's protector. You're probably expecting Shadow to whip out the good old karate chop of death again. But he actually spares Eggman and tells him to GTFO. You know what, I actually kind of like this ending. I think it has some pretty interesting implications, with Shadow living in isolation with the Chaos Emeralds on the Ark. This would give him a new role as the Guardian of the Emeralds, and I think that there's a lot of interesting story potential for that. But for now, here's more of the same story that we've already seen. This time I've got a fun idea for how I'm gonna go about this. This game is weirdly obsessed with Shadow beating up Sonic. I mean, the opening cutscene implies him killing him, and also there's a picture on the back of the game manual with Shadow punching Sonic in the face. So, I've decided to do a fuck you Sonic run. In Westopolis, I go for the Dark Mission, but I'm gonna make Sonic watch as I kill every gun soldier.
Hey, he's on our side. They don't give up. Shadow, what are you doing? It's the only way past. Shadow, what are you... Nice job, Shadow.
I destroy the internet again in Digital Circuit. This brings me back to Cryptic Castle, where this time I'm gonna help out Amy for real. Okay, I know this is a very Durger video game logic type of observation, but like, I really wonder how the hell Cream even got herself into this situation. I find her chilling behind this wall, but I have to go deeper into the castle to find Cheese. I find him chilling behind the slowest moving wall ever, and that's another A. This brings us to Sky Troops. Eggman's mission is actually the hero mission for this stage, and he tasks you with having to destroy the jewels that power the temples. These jewels are all located on the main path of the level, so they're pretty hard to miss, and I get the A. Shadow once again begrudgingly takes a ride on Sonic's ship as we're back to Space Gadget. Since I'm doing the fuck you Sonic run, I decided to take up the race with him for the Emerald and show him who's boss. I time a Chaos Control at this rail section at the end, which allows Shadow to fly right to the goal ring. It acts a little bit janky because of the changing gravity, but it still gets me there regardless. A rank achieved, dominance asserted. Now it's time to do the Dark Mission for Final Haunt. This level only has aliens in it, so it's better for me just to ignore all the enemies and try to run through it as fast as I can. Doom's mission is pretty straightforward. He asks you to activate the 4 defense switches in the level. This sends you on an alternate path where you have to ride the Hawks. But you don't even get to spam the missiles because all it's gonna do is harm your chances of getting an A. I get all the switches and I make good time to nail that A. Then we get a cutscene of Sonic confronting Shadow about why he's siding with the Black Arms. He responds by saying that he's siding with whoever is against Sonic, which is the exact kind of petty bitch energy I want from this run. Sonic tells Shadow to fucking drop the gloves, and we've got a solid Tilly on our hands, boys. Derek's also here. This encounter with Sonic and Diabolon isn't as bad as the one after Gun Fortress, because they actually give you a few decent guns to use. But it's still mostly the same fight with the same strategy. I beat him in just under 4 minutes, and I actually surprised myself by getting the A rank on my first attempt. With Sonic defeated, Shadow boasts that he's the most powerful hedgehog in the world and lets out a really awkward laugh. Such a weird thing to flex about, but it does line up really well with my intended goal for this run. This ending is just straight up ridiculous. Jason Griffith. Oh my god, that's a fucking hard name to say. Jason Griffith voiced both of these characters, and it's hard to imagine him recording these lines with a straight face. This brings my A counter to 47 out of 71, with 2 more endings left to get. I'm gonna go into free play mode for a bit here and rack up some more A's. Starting up, I go to Central City to do the hero mission, and it's time to learn counting with Knuckles.
6, 7, 8, 10. Shit!
I already went into detail about why this level sucks. Even Knuckles doesn't even think this is a fun mission.
You know, if these things weren't so dangerous, they might almost be fun.
The fact that this level's on a timer basically forces you to do it fast, and I managed to get the A no problem. Next, I'm heading to Prison Island to do the hero mission. Charmy wants you to find 5 secret discs, and holy fuck is he ever insufferable. He is without a doubt the worst companion character in this whole game. The secret discs luckily aren't too hard to find, and despite dying at the end, I still get the A rank. I feel like this part is kind of monotonous, so I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of the next few stages. Also, I'm going to put random explosions and keys jingling if I think it's getting too boring. The Lost Impact neutral mission is just a lot of holding the A button to speed up these turrets. These elevators are slow as fuck and take way too long, but I get the goal ring and get a C. My second attempt goes a lot better, except for when I jump down from here and land in the only spot that can kill me. I finish the level in 2.5 minutes and get the A. Mad Matrix Neutral Mission. This is so much more simple than the Dark Mission. All you have to do is get the red tower and play match the colors. Easy A. Mad Matrix Hero Mission. SPO wants us to access all 4 of the towers. This mission's neat because you can do it in any order you want. SPO is the only member of Team Chaotix that doesn't make me want to contemplate a Remington retirement. I have it here in my notes that green tower is pain in my assholes. There's this tricky section with moving platforms where you have to use a gun to change the colors or else you die. The camera screws me over and kills me, but this actually saves me time since it respawns me outside the red tower, and I can just warp to the same checkpoint, skipping having to redo everything. I get the A despite my score being pretty low. I swear I'm not hacking this game or anything. I go to Sky Troops to do the Dark Mission, and I don't really have much to say considering I've already talked about this one. This leads me back to, oh god, the Dark Mission for the Doom. This is one of the hardest stages in the game, but it's gotta be done. Also, when I was doing research for this, I came across an article of this level on a website called Atrocious Gameplay Wiki. Just do with that information what you will. I used my first attempt as a scouting run to try and memorize the level layout and where all the enemies are.
This facility is grotesquely large. I am not impressed.
You and me both, pal. You and me both. I managed to get 59 of the 60 soldiers before I accidentally get jump scared by the gold ring. At least I know where it is for future reference. On my second run through, I start to figure out the route I need to take, and also which paths lead to dead ends. I get all 60 soldiers and get a C rank for it. And now for my third attempt, which goes like this.
Now you know what true suffering is, you pathetic humans.
I sure do! And it's called the Doom! Get out of here!
Perfect.
Chapter 4. The end is within sight. So now it's time for my 9th run of story mode. I do the hero mission in Westopolis in order to get to Lethal Highway and do the dark mission. I get the gold ring in good time and get the A. I then get lucky with the boss fight against Black Bull, because he heads right towards where the aliens with guns spawn. I time a chaos control just right and take him out quickly, getting that A. Back at Prison Island, I go for the dark mission of destroying all the gun robots. I get the A, which sends me back to the Doom, oh god! It's okay. The hero mission is much less of a pain in the ass. You're supposed to heal 10 scientists using these blue things called heal units. You have to manually pick these up, and they're kinda clunky to use. Fortunately, I've unlocked the heal cannon. It acts like any other gun in the game, so I can have Shadow just carry it around with him. It works to heal the researchers, which saves so much time. It's also really helpful because any enemy you use it on will stop being hostile. The soldiers actually salute me. I know this level way too well at this point, so I managed to heal them all no problem for the A. I do the dark mission in Iron Jungle and take down the egg breaker in 7 seconds again. After this, Shadow decides to bring the emeralds to Black Doom, who summons him to the Black Comet. This stage probably has the hardest enemy variety of any in the game. You've got gun robots and walkers mixed with the alien worms, giants, and these teleporting guys. It makes these sections with the saucer really tricky, and you have to be pretty careful. I said it before, but this stage is long. It takes me 9.5 minutes before I get it done, and even that's good enough for the A. This means I have to fight Diablon again. For a game that asks you to beat it at least 10 times, you'd think they would have made more than 3 final bosses to fight. There were some points where Sonic just refuses to do, well, anything, and I finished the fight with a C. After beating him, Sonic asks Shadow why he's siding with Black Doom. Shadow takes a sec to answer.
Aw shit. I actually don't know. Oh, quick, say something that sounds cool.
You're a poopy head.
So with 9 out of 10 done, it's time for the 10th and final playthrough of Story Mode. I go through Westopolis as usual, but something really rare actually happens. You see, in every level, there's a 1 in 8,192 chance that instead of your normal companion, Big the Cat will show up instead. He tells Shadow that the black creatures have stolen Froggy and are holding him for ransom on a Facebook livestream. He says that the only way to save him is to e-transfer Joel $10,000. Well, I guess you better do what he says. You wouldn't want to make Big mad now, would you? After doing the dark mission in Glyphic Canyon, I'm back to Cryptic Castle, where I managed to speed through the level pretty decently. There's supposed to be this part where you're grinding here and being chased by whatever this is supposed to be, but you pick up so much speed while grinding that I don't even get a good look at it. Hey! And now it's time for the final mission of the Doom, the neutral one.
Shadow, I just can't leave everyone else behind.
Well, I sure can, as I already know this level way better than anyone alive should. I used the heal cannon to rack up enough goody-goody points to get chaos control, and you can tell that this level wasn't made for this in mind. I make good time, and I get the last A that I need, meaning that I can tell the stage to go fuck itself for good. Back in Airfleet, it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to assassinate the president! If you send his plane down the evil path, you get a bunch of robots to kill, which will quickly give you Chaos Blast. Now we get this hilarious visual of Shadow absolutely unloading on the president's escape pod. There's also turrets in this level that let you just wail on him. I get an A the first try, no sweat. I already went into detail about Gun Fortress, so I don't really have too much to add this time around. I speed through the level and get the A. After getting the emerald, Shadow tells Black Doom that no one tells him what to do, and they face off. Rouge drops this amazing line,
He's the one behind this terrorist plot.
because once again, it's 2005. This is the easiest fight against him, because you have access to this lock-on missile launcher. After defeating him, Shadow claims that he was born to rule all, and that he is gonna conquer the universe using the emeralds, effectively overthrowing Black Doom as the leader of the Black Arms. And now, after finally playing through this stupid fucking game 10 times, and seeing all the batshit crazy story scenarios, I've finally unlocked the final story. I'm sitting at 64 out of 71 A ranks at this point, so I'm gonna do a bit of cleanup in select mode before doing the last story. I go get the A for the neutral mission in the Ark, which just requires me to hold down the A button and avoid all the obstacles. Next, I go to get the A for the Cryptic Castle Dark mission. I make sure to Chaos Blast the chat room for good measure and lock up the A. And now it's time to clean up some of the boss fights. I start with Black Doom and Cosmic Fall. Chaos Control doesn't help too much in this fight because he goes into this state where you can't hurt him. I get a B in my first attempt, but in my second attempt, I feel like I get pretty lucky and I managed to use the machine gun to take him out quickly for the A. And now we've got back-to-back Diablon fights, oh boy. But I've devised a new strategy for this guy. I start by focusing on using the homing attack when he's up in the air. When he gets knocked down, I stay close to him to repeatedly bait him into attacking. I go get a gun once the dark gauge is almost full. When Showers.
It's me, Showers the Hedgehog.
When Shadow's powered up, I use Chaos Blast when his shields are up, and I absolutely unload on him when they're down. This strategy works perfectly, and it gets me the A for both of these fights. And with this, I have now achieved peak comedy! Look at that, isn't it beautiful? And with that, it's finally time for the last story. Chapter 5. The End. Alright, it's finally time to see how this shit show comes to an end. Up until now, the game has basically been a playground to explore different scenarios involving Shadow. Some of these are pretty neat. A lot of them are pretty stupid. So how does the game manage to tie all of the endings together for the finale? It doesn't. Yeah, all those other endings? Fuck them, they don't matter. The game just hand waves them all away. All that matters is that Shadow has all 7 emeralds and is aboard the Black Comet. Black Doom shows up and tells Shadow to give him all the emeralds, but then Sonic and friends all show up, and then Sonic tells Shadow to give him the emeralds instead. A tough decision for sure. Well, it doesn't matter, because Black Doom just takes all the emeralds anyways, and then uses Chaos Control. He warps the comet down to what is probably Westopolis, and then it starts rooting itself into the ground. He explains that the Black Comet passes by Earth every 50 years, and coincidentally, Shadow was being created on the Ark 50 years ago. It turns out that Doom helped Professor Gerald create Shadow. In exchange, Gerald promised that Shadow would give Doom all 7 emeralds the next time the comet passed, 50 years later. He gives the most basic bad guy spiel about how humans will eventually destroy each other and that he's saving them from themselves that I'm sure you've probably already heard in like a million other pieces of media. Basically, he wants to keep humanity as livestock for his alien army. That's what he's been after the whole time. Sonic and friends get real pissed off about this, but they can't do anything because the comet starts releasing paralyzing gas. So when Black Doom says he's saving humanity, what he actually means is that he's saving the animators from having to put more effort into this cutscene. Now that's what I call good management. Then he summons these larva things to come feast on them, and we get this amazing scene.
Damn! Back off, you slime balls!
What is that?
Shadow manages to break free of the paralyzing effect because it turns out he's immune to the gas. Black Doom's character model does a 180 rotation as Shadow runs off after him, while leaving everyone else who's still getting eaten. Finally, we're at the last stage, the last way. What does this game have in store as its last big challenge? Don't hold your breath because it's just Black Comet and Final Hunt again. It's almost the exact same. Some areas are literally copy-pasted. Instead of a cool, unique experience, it's almost the exact same as the 2 other levels that you've already had to play a minimum of 4 times. On top of it, the music's just kinda boring. It stands out because it's the only song that's more orchestral than everything else, but it's really bland and generic, and it's not gonna get stuck in your head like all the other songs in this game. The only unique thing about this stage is that you get to these parts where you have to use Chaos Control to progress, and enemies spawn infinitely. Other than that, there just isn't much here to write home about. I managed to get through pretty decently, despite this one part where the hawk gets stuck on the wall because that's just what they do. I nearly fall to my death, but I managed to save myself with a Chaos Control. There's this section at the end that's supposed to be a gauntlet because of all these giants that shoot explosives at you. But you get Chaos Control after killing like 5 of them, so it's pretty easy just to skip over them. We find Black Doom chilling at the end with all the emeralds. This stage doesn't give you a ranking, so at least I don't have to worry about having to replay it over and over again. Doom starts talking, but Shadow's pretty fed up with having to go through the same stage again.
You're boring me to death, Black Doom. You're going down!
This really hurts Doom's feelings, because he thought that Shadow was different from all the other girls. So he says fuck it and starts bloodbending him. He explains that when Gerald contacted him when the comet passed by the Ark, he used his blood in order to help create Shadow. This is really fucking stupid. Like, I get that Shadow was created to be a cooler and edgier version of Sonic, because that's what was in the early 2000s. But did you really have to make it so that he was made from the blood of Space Satan? Black Doom taunts Shadow, saying that he can't escape him, or his past. Do you get it? It's like a metaphor or something. I hope you like Tonal Whiplash, because here's Tame Chaotix on the art. Turns out that they were gathering data about Professor Gerald during all their missions, and they're close to cracking the code. Charmy takes a page out of Shadow's book and rams into the computer. This causes a message from the professor to start being broadcasted literally everywhere in the world. Thankfully, Black Doom forgot to unplug the old projector in the corner, so Shadow gets a front row view of it. Professor Gerald takes responsibility for contacting the Black Comet, and he says that's the reason why the government plans to shut down his research. He reveals that the reason he built the Eclipse Cannon is actually because he knew that Black Doom would return 50 years later. The cannon is the only thing capable of destroying the Black Comet. Then he has an oddly specific message saying that Shadow is the world's only hope before Maria makes her big cameo right at the end. The power of friendship is enough for Shadow to break free of Black Doom's control. Do you get it? It's like a metaphor. It's like a narrative device used to convey an idea. You utter buffoon? Do you get it yet? This message having this effect on Shadow, by extension, makes Charmy the second most important hero in this game. He does more to save the day here than Sonic. Also, Shadow breaking free of Doom's control probably would have been cooler and had more impact if the game hadn't pulled this exact trick like 5 minutes ago. Black Doom is unfazed by this, and he starts talking a mountain of shit.
Be prepared to meet your maker. Prepare to die. Say goodbye, Shadow, as you witness my true wrath.
But then he just leaves! He just fucks off and he leaves the emeralds for Shadow.
What are you, fucking stupid?
Black Doom isn't an amazing villain by any means, but up until now he's been at least competent. Shadow then takes the emeralds because, well, yeah. And then we get an admittedly really cool sequence of him transforming into Super Shadow. This gets me hyped every time. I don't care if it's cheesy or cringe or whatever. And so here it is, the final boss of this game. Black Doom is transformed into his ultimate form, Devil Doom. The fight's kinda meh. It's more spectacle than anything. But honestly, that's fine. Sometimes you just need to end off on something that looks cool. In his super form, Shadow can use Chaos Spear, which can either be shot rapidly or charged up. The whole gimmick of this fight is to hit the side of Devil Doom that Doom's eye is inside of. He switches every time you damage him, so it's better to charge up your shots. You can also get Chaos Control, but it's not too helpful because you have to wait for Doom's animation when he's switching heads. Shadow is invincible during this fight, so the only way to lose is to run out of rings. There's this part where Doom will start shooting these lasers at you, but the fight never really ramps up in intensity. There's no second form or anything, and the fight isn't too difficult. During the fight, you get dialogue from Shadow's friends, who've apparently managed to escape from the comet. But as the fight goes on, they start succumbing to the comet's gas.
What do we do? I can't keep my eyes.
And if you extend the fight out for 8 minutes, you get what might be the most important line of dialogue in the whole game.
Shadow, can you hear me? This might be the last chance I have to speak to you, so what I said about having created you, it was all a lie. Everyone thought you died during that horrible incident, but I rescued you with one of my robots. You lost your memory, that's all. You really are the ultimate life form my grandfather created.
I think you already knew that this was going to be the case, but it's still pretty cool to get a definitive answer from the game at the very last minute. Shadow once again fulfills his promise to protect the Earth and takes down Devil Doom. He then descends to the surface and then teleports the comet back up into space and uses the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the comet, defeating Black Doom and the Black Arms for good. This cutscene rocks. Even as an adult, I think this cutscene kicks ass. Back on Earth, everyone celebrates, and the President and Derek take a moment to reflect on how they were wrong about Professor Gerald. Except he still tried to blow up the world like 3 years ago, but we'll ignore that for now. The game ends with Shadow alone up on the Ark, looking down at the world. He throws away a picture of Maria and the Professor, symbolizing the final act of him putting the past behind him and moving on. The last story isn't amazing by any means. The writing has the same issues a lot of the rest of the game has, with these tonal clashes and overly convenient plot points, and also fanfic level dialogue and retconning of past events. But it's also a dumb cartoon game made for babies, so who cares? It at least offers a somewhat coherent ending to this mess of a story, and features some genuinely cool moments. In a way, it almost sums up this game perfectly. So that brings the story to an end. But I'm still not done, as I still got 2 more A ranks left to grab. Your reward for beating the game is the Shadow Rifle. This is by far the best gun in the whole game. It shoots these Chaos Spears that kill almost everything in one hit. So from here, I head back to Iron Jungle. The Shadow Rifle does insane damage to the egg balloon, making this mission way easier. I progress through the level and finish it off with this turret, finally getting that A. This leaves me with only 1 A rank left to get. The one I've been dreading since I started this run, and the one I could never get as a kid. The Lost Impact Hero mission. I used my first attempt as a scouting run. My goal here was to find the fastest route possible while taking mental notes of where all the artificial chaos and dead ends are. So much of getting an A rank is getting that time bonus, so the quicker I can do this, the better. I know I said it before, but god damn does this level suck. It's not fun having to navigate these enclosed spaces that all look the same. There's nowhere to build up speed, no loop-de-loops or set pieces, and no fun. Just turrets and elevators. Yay. My first run clocks in at 11 minutes, which is still good enough for a C. If I can shave a minute or 2 off, I might have a good chance of getting that A. So with everything I've learned from my first attempt, I tried the mission for a second time.
You got the touch. You got the power.
There it is! 7.5 minutes is good enough for the A. After all these years, I've finally 100%ed Shadow the Hedgehog. But wait, why is there still so much time left in the video? And why is O Fortuna playing? What? Chapter 6. Oh god, what do you mean there's more? It turns out that the reward for getting every single A rank in the game is that you unlock Expert Mode. So you know how you've already played every stage in the game a minimum of 2 or 3 times? Well, now you've got to do every level at least one more time. Dickhead. I've never experienced Expert Mode before, so this is all going to be new to me. In Expert Mode, you have to go through every stage in the game in this order without losing all your lives and getting a game over. So, we start off in Westopolis, and the first thing I realize is that the normal dialogue doesn't play. In fact, there's no missions or side characters at all. It's actually really refreshing to go through this stage without having to listen to Sonic or Black Doom constantly yapping at you. All you have to do is get to the end. They moved the goal ring to the actual end of the stage now. Isn't that crazy? Thankfully, I'm done having to worry about A ranks, so I can just get the goal and move on. If you touch these question mark things at the beginning, you get a message from one of the other characters wishing Shadow good luck for his training. Maybe this is like a Metal Gear VR type thing, I don't know, who cares. Digital Circuit isn't too different. Some of the green platforms are gone, which makes the platforming harder, but other than that, the only real change is that the goal ring is where the internet core used to be. Glyphic Canyon is mostly the same, until I get jump scared by this ring trail being here instead of the usual ramp. I guess I'm just so used to what the stage is normally like that I didn't expect this at all, and it really caught me off guard. Regardless, I managed to make it through, and we're on to the next stage, which is Lethal Highway. Here, they changed these garage sections so that you have to defeat the enemies to unlock the gate. It's also nice to do this without hearing all these side characters bitch at you. I get to this one part where the road collapses, and it just sends me into the void below. I kill all the enemies again, and then when I get to this part, the same thing happens again. Where do I go? Turns out, you have to know where the bridge collapses, stop and wait, and then jump down to the section below that you can barely see here. With that out of the way, it's on to Cryptic Castle. I start this one off by dying right away. I get to this one part where you need a torch, but there's none anywhere. I retrace my steps trying to find one anywhere in the level, but I just can't find one. And then when I come back to this place, the torches reappeared. Maybe it's the curse of the haunted castle. Ooh. Later in the level, Cream is still here, and attacking her gives me Chaos Blast, which is funny. There's a section where you have to go inside the castle and go through this sort of maze-like section. I tried to use Chaos Control to skip it, but big surprise, the game doesn't let me. So I go through it, and there's this part with a fan. The fan's not turned on, and there's no switch or enemies to defeat, just all these chow chilling here. So I go back to see if there's anything I missed, but there's nothing. After about 5 minutes of just wandering around here, wondering what the hell I'm supposed to do, turns out you're supposed to touch cheese. Yeah. And it turns out of all the chow in this room, he's the only one I haven't interacted with at all. After this setback, I make it through the stage no problem, and we're done here. Next is Prison Island, but there's not really anything interesting to talk about, so I'm gonna move on to Circus Park, where I run into this really tedious platforming section. You have to make Shadow jump on all these small moving platforms while avoiding these flaming rings, just in case you didn't feel like enough of a circus act already for having made it this far in this game. I get to Central City, which has actually been made a lot less tedious in this version. There's no time limit anymore, and parts of the level are blocked off now to make it more linear. Since there's no goal ring in this level, Shadow has to detonate the 5 big bombs. But it's actually easier than before because of these changes. The game throws tougher enemies at you, which I could consider being more challenging, but like, if you have a good gun, you're just gonna be waiting for them to spawn and die anyways. Next up is the Doom, and I'm really dreading what kind of bullshit they've decided to cook up here. I start, and Maria tells Shadow that he has to rescue all the researchers. Oh god. I go to where the first one should be, but he's not there. So that means that they've taken them all and rearranged them all. So I'm gonna have to scour this level again, trying to look for all these scientists. I start by checking all the corners and looking for where this game might have just devised to hide these guys, but I can't find any of them anywhere. I get through almost half of the stage and I still haven't found a single one. So at this point, I just say fuck it, and I manage to get Chaos Control, and... Yeah, okay, I guess I found them. Real funny, guys. I'm gonna power through the next few because there's just really not much to go over, and also this video is like long enough as it is already. Sky Troops is no problem. Mad Matrix is a bit annoying because you still have to activate all 4 towers. And Death Ruins and the Ark are almost identical. Especially the Ark. I didn't notice any changes made to the stage at all. I get to Airfleet and Shadow gets a message from the President. He's being really chill considering what happened the last time we were here. I make it through to the end and get the goal. Iron Jungle didn't have any noticeable changes, so on to Space Gadget. This level starts with a message from Derek, and
First, I want to apologize for the other day. Actually, I just became a grandfather last week, and I was thinking of maybe having you over.
I'm glad we get this bit of post-game Derek lore. I just like to imagine the two of them like sitting in big, like, grandpa chairs and just sipping whiskey together. Honestly, I was kind of expecting more from Expert Mode. They didn't make any changes to any level layout or geometry. Most of the changes they made are just adding more enemies or adding tough platforming sections. If you've made it this far, chances are you have a really good grasp on this game already, and these changes really aren't going to make much of a difference most of the time. One of the only cool changes they made is actually in Lost Impact, where this boring turret section has been replaced. Instead, you have to use these rockets and do some tricky maneuvering with the homing attack. The turret is still here, unfortunately, but they at least made this stage suck a little bit less. You get a sticker. Gun Fortress just adds more enemies, so it's like the Dark Mission on steroids here. Moving on to Black Comet, this stage was already so tough that I don't notice anything different when I'm going through it here. But it is fun being able to just wail on everyone now instead of having to pick and choose which enemies to attack. For Lava Shelter, all the lava defenses automatically get activated now, so you're locked into going to the direction of Eggman's mission. The goal ring has been moved to where the last defense unit is, and that's that! Next is Cosmic Fall, where... You know, I was gonna say something like, thank God Vector isn't here anymore. But whatever the fuck that was is worse. Of all the Expert Mode stages, this is, without a doubt, the hardest. There's this one part where the platforms are spinning on their axes. Normally, there's some platforms below, so if you fall, it doesn't really mean anything. But these have been removed, meaning now it's required to cross this section. It's tough to get the timing down, and Shadow's jump physics don't really react well to jumping at an angle. I die a few times, but by this point I've gotten so many lives that I'm in no danger of having to restart this run. After this, I run into what has to be the hardest segment of this entire game. These floating platforms move around in set paths. The problem is that these paths are so long and take up so much space. If you mistime it, you're gonna be waiting for almost a full minute for it to come back. I get to this one platform where I have no idea where to go. The camera certainly isn't doing me any favors here. I jump off and die because it's like, well, where do I go? This section of the game is hard, and I wouldn't mind if it was just a pure test of skill. But it wastes so much of your time by having to wait for these platforms to finally get close enough that you can jump on them. Sure, it's hard, but this ain't the most exciting gameplay now, is it? I'm gonna fully admit here, I don't give a fuck. This was the only part of the game I had to use save states for. I didn't abuse it or anything, I just set up a load state to act as like a mini checkpoint. So call me a fraud or whatever, I don't care, fuck you. When I started Expert Mode, this is the kind of tedious bullshit I honestly thought there was gonna be more of. It's a pretty pleasant surprise that this is basically the only real instance of something like this happening. On to the second last stage, Final Haunt. I get chaos control at one point and it sends me away that I'm like 99% sure I'm not supposed to go. But aside from that, I don't really notice any differences to this stage and I get the goal ring no problem. And here we are, the last stage of this entire run. This is it. This is the true end for real this time. Like a lot of the later stages in this game, I don't really notice a difference compared to the normal version. But something about this being the true end for me really gave this level a different feeling. It felt like a final victory lap. My last challenge came when Chaos Control dropped me off right at the final stretch. Without a gun, I had to use the same bazooka cannon that these big guys were using, and it really felt like this game's final test. And with that, the only thing left to do was to get the final goal ring. I took my time to reflect before getting it. 71 A ranks, 10 different story mode playthroughs, Adobe Premiere crashing 9 fucking times. Finally, it's all over. Man, I can't believe I actually went and did this. I gotta say, 100%ing this game wasn't nearly as tedious as I thought it was gonna be. When I first came up with this horrible idea, I was genuinely wondering if it'd be something I'd be able to accomplish. But there wasn't any point of this run where I thought I was gonna have to give up and abandon this idea. I found that a lot of the A ranks came pretty naturally to me, and there weren't many stages I really had to grind away to get them. I think it helps a lot that I'm already pretty familiar with this game's levels and controls before I started. I feel like my experience would be much different if I was going in blind versus already having so much of this game burned into my brain. So despite all the bitching and whining I've done during this video, I've still genuinely enjoyed most of my time spent completing this challenge. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that I just really like the core gameplay of this game and find it pretty fun. I like how Shadow controls most of the time, and the guns work way better and feel way more fun than they probably have any right to. With all that said, I will never attempt to 100% this game ever again. I like this game a lot, don't get me wrong, but I probably would have gotten burned out if I wasn't so determined to do it for the sake of this video. There's just so much of replaying the same stages over and over again that can get really tiring. I think this goes without saying, but I do not recommend this at all. I do recommend giving this game a shot for yourself, just to kind of check out what I've been talking about for like the last hour and whatever amount of minutes. But just keep it casual, don't do what I did. Don't ever do what I did. One thing that kept me sticking around is this game's absolutely bitchin' soundtrack. The music in this game is so good, there isn't one stage in the game that the music doesn't elevate the experience. It made replaying these stages over and over again way more enjoyable than they have any right to be. The fact that I can aimlessly be trying to find bombs in Mad Matrix for 20 minutes and still be bobbing my head to the beat the whole time might be the biggest piece of praise I can give. Expert mode was a neat surprise even if it didn't really change much. I didn't even notice a significant change for almost half of the stages. Oh, and one thing I forgot to touch on, there's no reward for completing expert mode. Not even like a thank you for playing message from the devs or anything, just the credits and that's it. Maybe the real reward was all the times we got to see these silly cartoon characters say the word damn.
Damn it.
Damn.
Damn. Damn. Damn it. Damn. Damn you!
Damn, they got away!
If you've made it all the way to the end, I gotta thank you so much for sticking through this whole thing. It genuinely means a lot to me. This was something I wanted to do because I thought it'd be fun, and I just wanted to give myself a fun little side project to work on. If I make any more videos after this, they're gonna be significantly shorter. Don't expect this type of video to be something I do regularly, or even ever again. Thank you all again so much for watching, and listening to my experience with this dumbass game. Have a good night, or day, or whatever. I'll see you around.
Oh my god.
Pee pee poo poo LMAO doo doo feces.